The newsroom of the New York Sentinel hummed like a machine with a missing cog, just enough chaos to feel alive, but something always felt off. At the center of the controlled storm sat Thomas Vale, editor-in-chief. Gray suit, crisp shirt, Montblanc pen clipped to a notebook that rarely left his hand. He wasn't just polished, he was precise. Every word mattered. Every headline had weight. He didn't bark orders. He gave direction with a look, a tilt of his head, a sentence clipped so clean it could cut steel. Thomas edited reality and people respected that. Revered it. But no one really knew him. "Tom, the mayor's office is dodging us again about the scaffolding collapse," a junior editor piped up, flustered. Thomas looked up slowly, tapping the edge of the notebook. Frame it around the silence. City Hall quiet as victim families wait for answers. Lead with pain, not the accident. The story is in the delay. The junior nodded and retreated. Another problem solved, another headline shaped. From the outside, Thomas was a master of truth. But inside something darker churned. That night, after the last light in the newsroom dimmed and only the janitor shuffled past the glass walls, Thomas walked down a hallway he shouldn't have. Past the elevator. Past the fire exit. To a door with no plaque. A door no one ever saw. He unlocked it with a small, silver key hidden in the lining of his wallet. The room behind it was silent. Still. Soundproofed. Monitors covered one wall, displaying real-time security feeds, city traffic, courtroom halls, even a few back alleys with no obvious purpose. A massive board was pinned with maps, photos, red strings and notes written in his own hand. At the center of the board was a headline that never made print. Bank CEO found dead, no foul play suspected. Thomas stared at it. Then, almost ritualistically, he opened a drawer in the steel cabinet and took out a burner phone. He dialed a number. It rang once. Then a voice answered, low, gravelly, filtered. "Ready for next phase?" Thomas closed his eyes. The mask he wore by day slid off in the darkness. "Yes," he said. "We move tomorrow." The building that housed the New York Sentinel was old, majestic, cracked at the seams, its bones creaking with history. The basement was a tomb of forgotten stories. Paper archives, dusty microfilm, ancient furniture no one had the heart to throw away. Maya Langley, a curious intern on her third week, was supposed to be looking for a 1982 article on subway safety. What she found instead was a ledger. Leather-bound. No title. Tucked between two archive boxes labeled Mayoral Scandals /2007 to 2010. The spine called to her like a whisper in a storm. She opened it. Inside were lists. Names. Times. Locations. Some were crossed out in red ink. Others circled in blue. It didn't feel like a diary. Felt like a playbook. There were notes like, package to drop 3:12 a.m., F-line, cam 12 disabled. Keller won't make it. Change script. Add gas leak story to page 3 to bury noise. Maya frowned. Then she turned the page and saw a full entry, dated 2 weeks ago. March 3rd, Metropolitan Art Gallery. Entrance. Lower left service door, 1:28 a.m. Security, 1 blind spot. Camera 7 looped. Guard, sleep pattern confirmed. Payload, the Renard Diamond. She blinked. Wait a second. She grabbed her phone and pulled up the news. Headline, world-famous Renard Diamond stolen, no leads. The article described it as a phantom job. No witnesses, no signs of forced entry, cameras mysteriously down. Just like the ledger said. Maya's hands trembled as she flipped ahead. She found a date, March 19th, tomorrow. Entry, Federal Courthouse. East Wing. Power grid fails for 4 minutes. Evacuation. Files removed. Maya's brain fired in every direction. Was this a prank? A game? No, the details were too perfect. She turned to leave but froze. A shadow passed across the dim hallway. A figure was standing by the basement entrance. Watching her. She slammed the ledger shut and backed into the shelves, breathing hard. But when she peeked around again, the figure was gone. The next morning. In the break room, Maya's hands trembled as she poured coffee. Her eyes were sunken. Her voice quieter than usual. Thomas entered as usual, composed, unreadable. "Maya," he said, startling her. "I hear you're making yourself useful." "Why, yes," she said quickly. "Just trying to learn the ropes." He smiled thinly. "You know what I like about print?" he asked, lifting a cup of tea. "It stays. Even when people try to bury the truth, it waits in the ink. Until someone reads it." She nodded nervously. "Why do you say that?" she asked. "Because I find it poetic." Then he walked away. and Maya couldn't breathe. Back in his private room, Thomas reviewed the logs on his encrypted drive. A new notification appeared. Unauthorized access detected. Archive room B12, time, 9:48 p.m. The camera angle showed a blurred figure. But in her reflection on the glass, just faint enough to catch, he saw it. Maya Langley. He leaned back, steepling his fingers, and smiled. The Metropolitan Museum of Art was a fortress. Cameras in every hall. Infrared sensors. Pressure-triggered tiles. Roving guards who never missed a shift. And yet, on the night of March 3rd, something impossible happened. At 1:27 a.m., a small fire alarm was triggered on the east wing. No actual smoke. Just a faint puff of steam strategically funneled into the duct. 2 guards rerouted. 1 began to sweep. At 1:29 a.m., camera 7 looped. Just once, enough to leave a 5-second blind spot. And at 1:30 a.m., the Renard diamond vanished. Not smashed. Not stolen with brute force. It was removed like an article from an editorial page. Clean. Intentional. Quiet. 3 hours earlier, Thomas stood in the underground room beneath the Sentinel, reviewing the feed from his laptop. He wore a tailored black overcoat, leather gloves, and the same mask of calm he always wore, only this time the mask felt real. Powerful. A voice came through his earpiece. All systems green. Diversion team ready. Thomas nodded. Execute on 125. Clean switch. Loop camera 7 only once. Too much and it looks doctored. You got it. He tapped a key. On a nearby screen, a breaking news banner scrolled across a mock-up of tomorrow's front page. False alarm at the Met prompts evacuation. Minor damage reported. Headline, story, quotes, all pre-written. Because this wasn't just a heist. This was a narrative job. Reality would bend to the story. Thomas Vale didn't just steal diamonds. He stole truth. Meanwhile, in the archives, Maya Langley hadn't slept. The coded journal had her spiraling. She had photographed every page and spent the night digging into old news stories, matching events to ledger entries. The Renard diamond? The subway arson? The courthouse power cut in 22? All matched. But what she couldn't figure out was how. How had this man, the buttoned-up editor with perfectly ironed collars, orchestrated crimes that had baffled authorities? And why leave the evidence? She didn't realize someone was watching her. From the upper mezzanine, a lens blinked red. 2 days after the heist, the Sentinel ran a subdued story on the museum's evacuation. No mention of theft. Just a note about security measures and museum protocol. Maya read the piece 3 times. The language was wrong. Too casual. Too crafted. She snapped a photo of the page and sent it to an encrypted email address. Then she looked up and saw someone walk past the bullpen who didn't belong. Tall. Confident. Raven black coat. Blonde hair tied tightly, red lipstick unshaken. The woman locked eyes with Maya for the briefest moment. Then vanished into Thomas Vale's office. Inside, Thomas barely looked up. Yes. I've read your file, she said. He froze. And I've read your ledger. He slowly put down his pen. Who are you? She pulled a slim folder from her coat and dropped it on his desk. Inside, pages from the ledger Maya had found. Copies. Highlighted entries. Surveillance stills. She smiled. My name's Evelyn. Evelyn Cross. You can relax. If I was here to take you down, you'd already be bleeding. He studied her, the way she moved, the calm beneath her voice. CIA. Former. Left when I realized truth wasn't their endgame. And now I freelance. I chase stories no one wants printed. And you, Mr. Vale, are a headline I can't ignore. Thomas leaned back. So what do you want? Evelyn smirked. To watch you work. That night in her apartment, Maya received a new email. No sender. No signature. Only a photo. Thomas Vale. At the museum. Wearing gloves. 1:29 a.m. Her heart stopped. And below the photo, 2 words. You're next. It was just past midnight when Evelyn Cross entered room 214 of the Monroe Hotel. The kind of place where walls remembered secrets and sheets never forgot. She slid the door shut with a quiet click, dropped her coat onto the velvet chair, and peeled off her gloves with deliberate grace. On the table was a folder. Inside, surveillance stills, timestamps, phone transcripts, and a single sticky note. You're close. He knows. Move fast. E. She exhaled through her nose and whispered, I know. Evelyn Cross had once been a name whispered in elite intelligence circles. A psychological profiler, expert interrogator, and government operative who made her exit when she discovered she was being used as a pawn. And now she was freelance, cleaner, finder, closer. But this job? It wasn't just personal. It was surgical. She poured herself a glass of scotch and studied the manila folder. Photos of Thomas Vale, composed, clean-shaven, every hair in place. But behind his eyes she saw it. The crack. A part of him had fractured. And fractures always let in the dark. She opened her laptop, watched a muted video of him in his office, alone, staring at the screen too long. Then she clicked to the next file. A video call recording between Thomas and an unknown client, voice masked. The courthouse blueprints. No witnesses. Yes, Thomas had said. I've rewritten the coverage already. Headlines will drop at 3 a.m. Evelyn paused the video and leaned in. Her smile was faint. He's not covering the crime. He's orchestrating the illusion. She closed the laptop, her smile fading. Tomorrow she would introduce herself. The following morning, Thomas was reviewing a mock-up for an expose on political donors when his assistant buzzed in. Sir, there's a woman here to see you. No appointment. But she's insistent. Thomas sighed. Name? She just said, Evelyn Cross. You'll want to hear what I have to say. His spine stiffened. Send her in. The door opened and she entered like a poem written in stilettos, graceful, deliberate, unapologetic. Her eyes were steel behind lashes. Calculating. Thomas gestured toward the seat across from him. I've heard of you, he said, voice measured. Good, she replied. I've read you. He leaned back slightly. Curious phrasing. I don't mean your articles, she said, sliding a flash drive across the table. I mean your ledger. A crack in his calm. Just one, a flicker behind his pupils. I don't know what you think you've found. Oh, I know exactly what I've found, Evelyn interrupted. Heists. Disappearances. Stories conveniently rewritten. You're not an editor, Mr. Vale. You're a curator of lies. A beat passed. And yet you're here, he said, to offer you a deal. Thomas raised an eyebrow. You came to blackmail me? Please, she scoffed. I came to join you. He studied her, unsure whether to be intrigued or wary. She leaned forward. I'm not here to bring you down. I want it. You've built something elegant. But you're one mistake away from being exposed. You need me. He smiled faintly. And why should I trust you? You shouldn't, she replied. But I'm your best shot at staying 3 steps ahead. Thomas stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Then we begin tonight. They met in a dim warehouse on the west side. Concrete floors. High ceilings. Dust thick enough to write secrets in. Thomas pulled a chain to reveal a large board of maps and schedules. Evelyn walked slowly, taking it all in. Shipments, power outages, planted stories. So clean, she said. And no fingerprints. I don't get caught, he said. I control the narrative. You've never been caught, she corrected. There's a difference. Thomas gave her a sideways glance, but before he could respond, his phone buzzed. A single message. You'll want to see this. Room 5C. Come alone. He frowned. I need to check something. Evelyn tilted her head. What kind of something? He didn't answer. The room was dark except for a single flickering bulb. A VHS tape sat on the table. Beside it, a player already connected. Thomas inserted the tape, hit play. Grainy footage. A dark alley. A man, bound, bleeding. Another figure stepped out of the shadows. Thomas. He watched, expression unreadable as he struck the man over and over, until the screen faded to black. His breath caught. I don't remember this. He watched it again. Same suit. Same face. Same rage. But he couldn't place the memory. He'd never been in that alley. Never wore that coat. Right? He left without the tape. Back in the car, Evelyn waited. You okay? Do I look okay? No. You look like someone who just saw a ghost with your face. Thomas didn't speak for a moment. Then, someone is trying to rewrite my story. And doing it well. He looked at her. I don't like being played. Good, she said. Then let's find out who's doing the writing. That night, in the shadows of a control room hidden beneath the city, a voice whispered to no one in particular. He saw the tape. Another voice replied, modulated and cold. Good. Let the cracks grow. He's starting to remember. It had been 48 hours since the tape. Thomas Vale sat in his office, blinds drawn, fingers steepled beneath his chin. The walls no longer felt like walls, they pressed inward inch by inch. He hadn't eaten, hadn't shaved, and that perfect combed hair had begun to curl at the edges. The tape was fake. It had to be. Except it wasn't. Evelyn stood behind him, watching. Her voice was gentle but precise. "How often do you forget things, Thomas?" "I don't," he said. "I remember everything." "No one remembers everything," she replied. "Not naturally." Thomas turned slowly, his eyes dark. "What are you saying?" She paused, then crossed the room and pulled a small drive from her coat. "You ever heard of Project Mnemosyne?" Thomas blinked. "Cognitive conditioning," she explained. "CIA, black budget, mental fragmentation, implanting false narratives, making people forget, and then giving them stories to fill the cracks. You're saying I was part of that?" "I'm saying you were built to be two people. The editor, the architect, and the cleaner." He stared at her, heart thudding. Then whispered, "Then who am I really?" She held his gaze. "We're going to find out." They tracked the lead from the VHS source, a storage facility under a fake logistics firm on the East River. Inside, an entire room was dedicated to Thomas Vale. His childhood, his education, medical scans, psychological profiles, debrief transcripts labeled Operation Byline. "This is surveillance," he whispered, flipping through files. "This is my life." Evelyn scanned a monitor feed from a server. "There's more," she said. "You've got memory dead zones every 6 weeks. Like clockwork. Neural resets." "Resets from what?" She clicked on one audio file, distorted and full of static. Interviewer: "Do you know what you did to Keller?" Thomas: "Faint no. I don't remember." Interviewer: "Good. Let's keep it that way." He backed away. "I killed Keller?" "Keller was the whistleblower," Evelyn said. "He was going to expose the news manipulation ring. And I stopped him." She touched his arm gently. "You didn't choose that, Thomas. They made you." He shook her off. "Or maybe I'm exactly what they made me. A perfect liar." Later that night, Thomas sat at the edge of his apartment window, overlooking a dark city pulsing with lights and secrets. Evelyn stood nearby, on the phone with someone. He listened closely. "Yes, he's cracking. But he's not ready. No. I haven't told him yet. About the broadcast. About the body. I'll deliver him. I just need a few more days." Thomas stepped into view, rage simmering. "Who was that?" Evelyn froze. "You shouldn't have." "Who was that?" Her jaw clenched. "A contact. With the Bureau." His voice dropped. "The FBI? I never lied to you. You told me we were in this together." "I needed access to their files," she said. "They don't even know the full story. But you have to understand, Thomas. They think you're the enemy. I had to play both sides to protect you. Or you've been playing me the whole time." Evelyn stepped forward, desperate. "You're more than what they turned you into. But we have to burn it all down. The tapes. The experiments. The publisher." "The publisher?" he echoed. "You know who it is?" "No. But I know where the next drop happens. Tomorrow. And when it does, we end this." But Thomas wasn't sure anymore. Not about her. Not about himself. Not about the difference between betrayal and salvation. The next morning, the city awoke to a firestorm. Leaked footage exposes editor's criminal double life. Famed journalist wanted by federal authorities. Photos. Tapes. Evidence. All of it perfectly planted. The fall had begun. By noon, Thomas Vale was a fugitive. The FBI issued an APB. Every news outlet called it the greatest betrayal in journalism history. Former colleagues condemned him on air. "I always knew there was something off about him," one anchor said with fake sorrow. Thomas moved like a ghost, switching subway lines, changing clothes, keeping low. He shaved his head, tossed his signature jacket, and vanished into the folds of New York. Meanwhile, Evelyn was pulled into a dark interrogation room in D.C. "Miss Cross," the agent said, setting down a file. "Care to explain why you were last seen with the most wanted man in the country?" "I told you," she said calmly. "He's not what he seems." "Oh, we agree," the agent said. "But neither are you." He slid over photos of her CIA records. Redacted. Blacked out. Burnt. Only one word visible. Unstable. Back in an underground bunker in Brooklyn, Thomas accessed a secured server. One that even the government forgot existed. From it he pulled records. Audio calls. Confidential memos. Psychological warfare protocols. And one file stood out. Operator, publisher, 1. Location, unknown. Alias, redline. Status, active. Objective. Mass narrative control via distributed misinformation, social engineering, deepfakes, and targeted resets. He exhaled. So it was real. There was someone above him. Someone orchestrating the whole thing. He opened one final file, a psychological profile on Evelyn Cross. Subject remains unpredictable. Assets report emotional instability. However, subject is also the only operative to breach Redline's outer circle. Monitor closely. Use if necessary. Terminate if exposed. His stomach dropped. She hadn't betrayed him. She was the only one still playing the long game, and she had put herself in the line of fire to protect him. That night, a knock came at Evelyn's holding room door. A man entered, no badge, no insignia. "You're being released," he said. "Why?" "Because the publisher just put a kill order on both of you." Evelyn Cross stood in a dim glass-walled room inside a federal black site. Shackled. Bloody. Quiet. The agent across from her slammed down a file. "Why protect him?" "Because you don't know who he really is. He's a liar. A manipulator. A terrorist. No. He's a weapon. You made him." She leaned forward. "You think Thomas Vale wrote his story?" "No. Redline did. You fed him fake timelines, fake memories, and told him he was saving the country. He was erasing enemies. But now, he knows. And he's coming for whoever's holding the pen." The agent froze. "What did you say?" Evelyn smiled. "Your boss is next." 3 layers beneath Manhattan City Hall sat an office no one knew existed. It looked like a publishing room, typewriters, reels, old screens, but the air vibrated with something else. At the center of the room sat Redline. Unseen. Matt. Genderless. Their voice, mechanical, distorted. They watched footage of Thomas infiltrating a server. They watched Evelyn plead for his protection. And they watched a new narrative form, one they didn't write. "Initiate contingency alpha," Redline said. A masked agent nodded. "Kill Evelyn Cross. Bring me Vale alive." "Why alive?" "Because you don't burn an author mid-chapter. You let him finish the story, and then you erase it." Thomas walked through a warehouse disguised as a shipping company in Jersey City. But inside it wasn't boxes, it was servers, hard drives, press equipment, and a wall-size map of global media nodes. He traced red yarn connecting 5 cities: New York, Geneva, London, Dubai, Tokyo. Every editor was a cog. Thomas wasn't the only one. There were dozens. A news manipulation network spanning continents. One name kept surfacing. S. Marwick, former intelligence director. Now, silent partner of the Sentinel. Then Thomas spotted a black envelope. Inside. "You were never the writer, Vale. Just the pen." Evelyn ran. They were chasing her through Queens, drones overhead, foot soldiers through alleyways. She'd slipped her tracker using a signal jammer hidden in her boots. She ducked into a stairwell and grabbed a burner hidden inside a vent. Thomas answered on the 3rd ring. "They're trying to erase you," she said. "You've been marked as an asset gone rogue." "And you?" "I've been marked expendable." "You were right. I played both sides too long. I'm calling in a marker." "From who?" "The only man who knows what's underneath Redline's mask." Scene cut. Evelyn visits a man in a hospital bed, heavily sedated. "Hello, Director Marwick," she whispers. "Ready to make peace with your sins?" With Marwick's intel, Thomas and Evelyn broke into a satellite uplink facility above Midtown. The one Redline used to feed auto-published stories to over 2,000 global sites. Thomas prepared a counter-broadcast. A raw, unfiltered video that would air globally for 3 minutes before Redline's AI could suppress it. He stood in front of the lens. "I'm Thomas Vale. Editor. Architect. Criminal. And I'm not alone. You've been reading lies crafted to shape behavior, crush dissent, and rewrite history." But just before he hit send. Boom. The wall exploded. Gas poured in. Evelyn was thrown backward. Thomas hit the ground and saw a gloved hand drag him into a black van. Redline had found them first. Darkness. Then voices. Strip his memory. Use mnemosiny. Reassign his past. "No," said another. "Redline wants him aware. To break. On camera." Thomas woke strapped to a chair, spotlight on his face. Across from him, a screen. On it, Redline's mask. "Do you believe in free will, Mr. Vale?" He said nothing. "You were the perfect character. You followed every edit. Every directive. And now you want to become a writer? No. You are a storyline, Thomas. Nothing more." "I rewrote your scripts," Thomas growled. "You copied my structure," Redline replied. But you never created your own. And then the monitor showed something else. Evelyn, in chains. Let her go, Thomas shouted. You already let her in. That was your final mistake. But Evelyn had a plan. She bit into the molar implant in her back tooth, activating a magnetic charge in her cuffs. Click. She moved fast. Disarmed one guard, stabbed another with her heel. Found her way to the server room. Plugged in a microdrive. Transmitted one file labeled Redline Interceptor Protocol. Then whispered, Your story ends now, Thomas. Even if mine doesn't. The world paused. Every phone. Every TV. Every screen flickered. And there he was. Thomas Vale. Bleeding. Bound. But defiant. You're watching this because truth found a signal. I was part of a machine. A network that didn't just report the news, it created it. But no more. Here's what they didn't want you to see. Then Evelyn's file played. Redline's voice. Marwick's testimony. Satellite maps. Kill orders. People screamed. Governments collapsed. Redline's voice cut in. Terminate feed. Terminate them. Gunfire. Chaos. Sirens. The underground base went red alert. Evelyn burst in, dual pistols in hand. Thomas freed himself using a jagged pipe, and together, they tore through the chamber. They reached the core Redline's voice system. Evelyn grabbed the final hard drive. Say goodbye to your story, she whispered. Thomas pressed the button labeled Purge. Everything went white. Weeks later, the world had changed. News outlets were rebuilding trust. Editorial boards purged. People demanding transparency. Thomas Vale stood alone at the East River, wearing an old coat, watching birds skim the water. Footsteps behind him. He turned. Evelyn. But her eyes were distant. It's over, she said. No, he said. It's paused. She reached into her jacket and pulled a file. Redline wasn't one person, she said. It was a position. Vacant now. Thomas stared at her. You knew. She nodded slowly. You were never the target. I was always going to replace them. And I needed you to open the door. So I was your final mistake, he said. Evelyn smiled faintly. No, Thomas. You were the final draft. And she walked away. Fade to black.